Mom, can I please just stay home? I don't want to go to school.
You're listening to Parenting in the Rain, Insights from the Experts podcast, episode 32.
Welcome to Parenting in the Rain, Insights from the Experts podcast, providing parents all around the world with valuable knowledge to help with the biggies of family life. Here's your host, a registered play therapist, education specialist, parent coach, and my mom, Jackie Flynn.
Hi there, Jackie Flynn here. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Parenting in the Rain podcast. Well, at the time of this recording, school is just about ready to start. Today, I'm taking my daughter to go get her 7th grade immunization shots, and my son is going to registration at high school, so I'm really excited. He's going into the 9th grade, and then after that, I'm going to work. I have several clients this evening, but I know with school getting ready to start, I know the teachers are in pre-planning here at the time of this recording, and school starts just in a little less than a week here. It can really leave some people feeling anxious. And I know I used to be a teacher. Actually, I'm still a certified teacher and a certified school counselor. But when school would get ready to start, there is that excitement, but also it can really bring on some anxiety, especially if someone deals with anxiety anyway. And it can be a really big deal for some people, especially for kids. And some of the things that are helpful with kids aren't necessarily common sense to parents and teachers because it may seem counterintuitive. So I thought it was important to create this episode so that could get out how to help kids cope with anxiety as it relates to back to school anxiety, but really you can use these tips in any type of situation that creates anxiety. And first we're going to talk about how anxious feelings during the back to school time aren't uncommon. A lot of kids can feel them, parents and teachers, especially if it's during the time of transition for the kids. So if it's kindergarten, moving from elementary to middle school, or middle school to high school, and then eventually college, if that's the path that they choose. Now, this can be so very stressful for kids and families, and that is an understatement, right? It can really rock worlds in families when a kid feels anxious about school. It may look like crying, just that real clinginess, lower tolerance levels, and it could lead to tantrums, sometimes meltdowns. Those somatic symptoms also, such as tummy aches and headaches and crankiness. The tummy aches and the headaches can be very real. Sometimes it could lead to nausea. It's not something that is an attempt to fake it so they don't go. It is really related. It's called somatic symptoms, and the thoughts and the feelings that they have around a situation can manifest itself in a body in a big, big way. That's why part of the therapy is where do you notice that in your body and really get connected to how these emotions set in your body, and that can help you have more control over them. Children may present with like begging and pleading, please don't make me go home. Let me stay home. I want to be homeschooled. Sometimes they'll say that, or sometimes they will just really go to all efforts to stay home. They'll try to negotiate and bargain. And I'm wondering, as I say these, do any of these sound familiar to you? So there's a pretty good chance if you're listening to this episode that they do. So I'm going to give you some more explanation and then some tips of how to make it better and how to get past it. So it is totally normal, just as human beings, for us to have worries. It's one of the emotions that people have. So really recognizing that, hey, that's something that comes up for everybody is worries. It's really the way that our brain is wired. However, when we're talking about school, it's not optional whether the kids go or not. Now, if you homeschool, of course, they're at home. There's so many different scenarios. But through the traditional school setting, school is a non-negotiable. And It's really something that they have to do, and at these early stages in the formative years, it's really setting their work ethic that later translates into their work situation, right? So you want to make sure that you use these formative years in the most productive ways to really help your child. And it's important to know that if you give in to your child's bargaining and pleading and everything, you could actually make it worse. It can increase your child's fear. The chance for successful experience and having them realize that they can surpass the fears really doesn't get the opportunity to occur if you give in to it. It almost confirms and rewards their pleading and begging. It makes that attempt something that works for them. So it's likely to get worse because they see that as, okay, this is a way for me to get out of school. And I don't want to minimize it at all. I know how difficult it is. It's really, really difficult for the kids because they truly feel desperate and scared and feel those feelings come up in their body. But it's also very difficult for parents, especially parents that are working parents that are maybe in a rush, really in a rush to get to work. That can be really hard. Or parents that of the stay-at-home parent, because that is often the most challenging job of all. And sometimes that can even be more challenging in this situation if the kid knows, well, mom or dad, you're home all day, then why can't I stay home? So it can be really, really hard. But you want to make sure that you give that chance to succeed and give your child the confidence to get past this. How you respond is a big part of the success in the situation. And also missing school, and when we're talking about maybe not a day here or a day there, but like that kind of like that truant type behavior or that excessive absences, it limits kids in so many different ways. Obviously, one of the big things is the academic piece. When they get behind, it can really mess things up. It can make their grades go down, and it can really take away their opportunity to succeed and master certain skills in school. And there's a lot going on at school. So the more that they get behind, the worse that it feels and the more undesirable that it is to go to school. So it's really important to have them go to school and to not give in to that. But you want to make sure that you do help them through that, through your techniques and strategies, but also, if need be, reach out to support, whether it's through a school counselor, a teacher, a therapist. I know I have kids in my private practice that I help through therapy, and it makes a world of difference. Also, a behavioral analyst. Everybody's situation is different and all their needs are different. But if they miss school, it has an academic impact, but also a social impact. Remember, at school, the only thing going on is not academics. There's that social piece too. And kids, they foster the friendships as well as like develop, and they practice those social skills. So if they're not at school, then that really, really falls behind as well. So to set your child up for success, it is super important to create a schedule and an environment where your child's getting plenty enough sleep. So that's where you want to have it be predictable too. There's safety and security and predictability. So having a good bedtime with a routine. A lot of times people find success in like maybe the schedule of after dinner they play for a little bit and then they go take a bath. You know, depending on when your homework is, take a bath, take a shower. That warm water, it has such a sensory effect. And then read a story with your child and really make it that predictable connecting time and have them lay down and go to sleep each time. Sometimes it helps with soothing music and just creating an environment of relaxation is a biggie. Also, what your child eats makes a big difference. That healthy eating, the healthy meals can really help your child's body calm down in a physical way, which relates to that, emotional way. So having that healthy food and also physical movement. So you want to make sure that your child isn't just kind of propped up in front of a TV or a video game the whole time during the evening after school, because of then they won't get that good rest. And the next morning when they're feeling that anxiety, their body will feel tired, their tolerance levels will be low, and it all just kind of snowballs from there. So it really makes everything better when your child is rested, nourished, and they just feel alive from that movement. So one thing that I know that is probably one of the biggest pieces of the child-parent relationship is empathy. Empathy is really connecting with another person. Just it's different from sympathy. It's not necessarily I feel sorry for you, but it's the I understand and I'm connecting with you. I care, and I'm really trying to see things how it is in your shoes type of thing. So use empathy to let your child know that you care in this situation. Sometimes it can be tempting to be harsh and threaten and induce shame and guilt, but that can all make it so much worse, not only for this situation, but it can really it's real corrosive to your child's feelings of self-esteem and self-worth. So stay away from the threatening and the shame and the guilt, and stick with empathy. It can make a big difference. It starts with reflecting the feeling, and this is a technique that I teach the parents of my child clients, and has a big impact. Just really connect with and it doesn't even have to be child-parent relationship. It can be any relationship. Notice what they're feeling and reflect it. You feel worried about the third grade. The thought of going back just feels overwhelming. So that's nice, short and sweet. It really kind of let the kid know, hey, my parent understands what I'm feeling, and it doesn't feel like, hey, they just shut me down. It feels good to have somebody connect with you in that way. Through this approach, you're really helping your child with that emotional literacy, which is so important for emotional intelligence and emotional health throughout life. But more importantly, it's sending your child the message of, I get you. I understand. I know it's hard, and I care. Now, if it's appropriate, and you kind of know this, everybody's situation is different and every time is different, but if it's appropriate, you can also tell a short snippet of a related story about yourself. But you don't want to turn it into you. You want to keep it on your child's thing, but you could say, yeah, I remember feeling that way on my first day of work. Or I remember when I was a kid in third grade and it felt really tough. And then you leave some space for silence or for your kid to respond so it could sink in. Remember, less is more. You don't want to get into lecture mode, because if you say too much, they only hear a little bit. It's like going to a big, giant book for one piece of information. Sometimes you just skip on it because it's too much work to go read and look through the entire book. So be careful, though, with your story if you do get into that situation, not to one-up your child like, yeah, when I was in third grade, but it was so much worse than your situation. And you don't want to do that, because then you're really kind of distancing yourself from your child. It's kind of making your child feel like, yeah, yours is nothing, mine was worse. That can feel really bad. If you've ever had somebody one-up you, then you probably know what I'm talking about. Be like, oh, yeah, this situation happened to me. And then somebody comes by, wow, that's nothing. My situation was way worse. It makes that person feel frustrated and makes them just want to run for the hills and just get away from you. So that's not good in this situation at all. And it's definitely not helpful. So this empathy approach can go such a long way. So if we respond with instantly disagreeing with them, like, oh, there's nothing to be scared of, then the kids may think, hey, my mom or my dad, they just don't understand. They don't get it. There is something to be scared of. So that's one of those things that's not necessarily common sense, right? Because we may see the irrationality of the fear that they have, but you don't want to turn them off right away because it's really real to them. It can make it worse because then they lose that hope that, hey, my parent has my back. My parent is seeking to understand what's going on for me. And they may not have all of that complex verbiage, depending on their developmental level or where they're at, but it can certainly come out in an emotional way. And I know it can be so hard, especially with those irrational fears. But trust me on this, taking the time to validate your child's feelings is so helpful. And it can also be really helpful to try to figure out the root of your child's concerns. This will help them to develop a plan to cope. And sometimes that plan will be along with you. So it's important to know that developing a plan to cope really isn't something that you can just kind of pressure them into doing, and then they instinctively know how to do it. For one, it's really tough to cope with tough situations when you're a child and you don't have that prior life experience. But also, their brain is kind of offline when they feel this. And when you help that, you help them move towards that, okay, this is tough. This is really hard. I get it. Okay, so now let's look at how we can cope with it and get past. Then you're providing that hope, and you're really modeling for your child how to think through these situations and not really be stuck in them. When someone feels anxious, whether it's a child or an adult, any age, their alarm system in their brain is usually going off. Their fight, flight, or freeze response is going off. I got distracted for a second. So their thinking is kind of limited at best. So that's where that support happens. And that's where, with anxiety, that's why mindfulness is so very important. It can recalibrate that alarm system in someone's brain to where things don't feel as scary right away. I just read the best book, The Body Keeps the Score, and he uses the metaphor of a smoke detector and saying that, like, if a smoke detector goes off real lightly with just a little bit of smoke, then it needs to be reset. So I know we used to live on a boat, and every time I cooked, the smoke detector would go off, even when there was no any danger of a fire. Is just so close to where I was cooking. But that's kind of how anxiety is. It's like it feels really scary, and your alarm system's going beep, 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 beep. So mindfulness, and I have another episode with Robert Cox, COX. He has a podcast, Mindful Recovery, and he was on Parenting in the Rain, but also you can check out his podcast yourself. But really helps to use mindfulness to help the brain have a less responsive, or not necessarily less responsive, because if it's in a healthy state, then you don't want something less responsive, but it puts it back in that more normal range to where when your fight, flight, or freeze response goes off, it's because there's really danger. It's a rational fear. So it's important to really know this, that when something's happening, your child isn't thinking at the same level as you are, because when that alarm system goes off in the brain, their frontal cortex, that prefrontal cortex, goes offline. So thinking is really limited at best. And one thing that I noticed is that it's important to know that sometimes what the parent thinks the problem is and the child thinks the problem is very different. Sometimes the child may not be giving the parent all the information, or the parent may automatically just jump to conclusions because they're using their prior experience from their life or other kids or something, and it gets totally skewed. So if you're trying to solve a problem that you are really identifying the wrong problem, then that doesn't get solved very well. So I see that in therapy quite frequently, and a lot of times, just like the kids' prefrontal cortex can be all fine when they're feeling upset, so can parents. So there's limited capacity there to really make decisions with all the information. So therapy, reaching out to a therapist, a child therapist in these situations is really helpful. And child therapists work with the kids, but also closely with the parents too. With my practice, and everybody's kind of different in this respect, but I meet with the kids and then I offer a free contact with the parents in between sessions so that we can keep on the same page on how therapy's going and things of that nature. It really makes a difference, and that's why I do it. But sometimes the problem is identified as differently. So you want to make sure that when you are problem solving, that you're solving the right problem. And also it can be really helpful to reach out to teachers and school counselors, therapists, as I said, and other people like that for support, because they're in the business of really helping kids, right? So they may have information that can help you. And as social creatures, reaching out to somebody else for support just makes things feel less scary and more manageable. Can really help you get through this problem. Now, I mentioned this a bit earlier in the conversation, but be sure to steer clear of guilt or shame when it comes to motivational efforts. It can be tempting to try to shame your child and guilt your child, but that's not the way to go. Guilt is really that inner cognition, that inner thought of, I'm doing something bad, or I've done something bad. And shame is actually even worse. I am a bad person. This can leave your child feeling less than and incapable. Not only in this situation, though, it can hinder them lifelong. They generalize it. They take it on as part of who they are. And you don't want your child to grow up thinking they're a bad person, because then life really isn't worth it. It can manifest itself into big, big problems. So pick out some things that your child may like about school and focus on those. And it may seem really superficial, but if your kid likes it, then it's important to notice. So you may want to focus on, remember your friend Johnny last year, how much you guys had fun at the Halloween party or something like that. Something to really kind of change that focus, even if it seems minuscule. I know my friend was telling me about a training that she went to on preventing high school dropout occurrence. And one of the big indicators there is when a child goes to high school, you want to make sure that they get involved in something that they like. Even if it's something that isn't likely to transfer into like some big career or something like that, it will make school fun for them and it will make them want to go. And then when they're there, then they have that opportunity to succeed. If they're not there, then the opportunity's gone. So really focusing on something that your child likes is super important. And that may look different across the board. If you're really dealing with like back to school anxiety for a kindergartner, it may be remember recess. But say you have an 8th grader getting ready to go into 9th grade, it may be remember your friend, or band, or chorus, or baseball, something like that. But it's really important to make sure that it's not all work and no fun. And sometimes that work can be fun for people, but I think you understand what I'm talking about. But remember, you don't want to jump right into trying to convince your child, because you're skipping the connection and the reflection of their feeling. And if you do that, then your child may be feeling like, hey, my parent doesn't get me. They're just trying to convince me. If you jump right into that convincing mode, you're likely to be met with deaf ears. So it's really important to realize, though, the reality of how kids really kind of feed off of their parents. They can smell anxiety in their parents a mile away. So they often take cues from their parents on how to act and how to respond to the world. They see how confident, how trusting, and how secure they should feel about the situation. That's how our brains are wired, right? So it's so very important for parents to stay calm, cool, and collected. And this really takes time for the parent to look within and really have an honest check-in. What's going on for me right now? What am I feeling inside? And what am I showing on the outside? And remember, a lot of times when you speak to other parents, you may say something, or teachers, you may say something so innocently, but if your child hears it, they take it as truth. Name Jackie. Jackie doesn't want to go to school today, but I know she's going to be good. She was scared about the one time that this happened. I hope that doesn't happen again. Saying things like that in front of your kid could leave a big question mark and a big, yes, there's something to be scared about. So really do an honest check-in with yourself, because it can be really difficult. And it takes time to work through those things and really learn coping skills yourself. So you can engage in self-soothing, and you can find those self-soothing skills in so many different places. And I use that through my couples counseling a lot, helping couples engage in self-soothing when they feel flooded through an argument. But also I help all of my clients self-soothe, even at the beginning of each session, because then they learn that, hey, this is a tool that I can use when I feel upset. So if you feel that as a parent, you feel like, okay, my child deals with anxiety, but to be completely honest with myself, I do too. And I feel like I'm just as worried as my child is. Reach out to somebody, get a support team, whether it's the therapist, the teachers, or a friend. Yoga is really helpful. There's some recent research on the power of yoga to work through trauma, which leads to anxiety and depression. So things like that, and definitely therapy can help. I recommend that everyone, at least for a year of their life, work through therapy. It's so very healing, and it can make life so much easier and more enjoyable. So plain and simple, your child just looks at you to, okay, this is how I should react to the world. So you want to make sure that you model that. So when you drop off your child at school, be sure to be supportive and calm, but also be firm. Don't be wishy-washy. A short and sweet kiss goodbye. I love you. I see that you're scared, but I know you're going to be okay here. We can see each other again after school. Sometimes that can really make a difference. Just that confident belief in them, short and sweet, and you don't want to continue to say bye, bye, bye. You do one quick, firm, loving goodbye, and that can help. It may help to give your child like a worry stone and something that they can kind of have in their pocket that they can rub. I love the book for the younger kids, The Kissing Hand. That is so beautiful, but it really helps a lot of kids. I had that in my office as a school counselor, and of course now have it at my play therapy practice. But basically this little raccoon is feeling this anxiety about going to school, and the mom has him kiss the palm of his hand, and then she kisses the palm of their hand, and it's a way to kind of visualize that connection. It is such a beautiful story, and I can't tell you how many kids that I know that's helped, but around the world over the years, it'd be really neat if somehow we could figure out how many people have been helped by that book. Send me an email if you have either read The Kissing Hand with your child to help them, or if somebody read that to you, or if perhaps you're a teacher or a therapist. Sometimes when parents are in this situation, and I know this from a school counselor, that first day of school can really be tough on parents and kids if they're in this situation, and know that not all kids go through this. Some kids, they just go to class and there's none of this, but it can certainly be very real for many families. But it can feel so heartbreaking to see your child cry and plead for you to stay, especially if you really want to stay. But to continue to stand there and say goodbye over and over again just makes it hard on you, your child in the classroom. Now, I know when I worked in the school system, and I believe they still have this too, it didn't stop, but for the kindergarten parents, they had the boohoo breakfast. So the parents would say bye and then go to like a little breakfast, and then they would have that community, that support, the other parents in there. And also, it's just such a wonderful school. The administration would talk to the parents about how kindergarten works and all the different resources in the school and ways that they can find support. But also, it really served as a good way to get the parents out of the classroom door so that the kid could have that nice, clean, separation and go into start class. And after the first day, it gets easier for most families, not all. And know that that time of transition isn't the only time anxiety can come up in school. But specifically, this episode's about back to school anxiety, so that's why I'm focusing on this. Okay, so I saw something on Amazon and I bought it the other night. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for it to come in. It should come in tomorrow. It's called a worry eater. And it's like this little, it looks almost like a little purse, but like a little stuffed animal type thing. And it has a zipper mouth, and the kid can draw or write something and put it inside of the worry eater's mouth. And of course, they have all of like the cutest little, they look like little monsters, but they're like cute monsters. So, be sure to check that out. I may try to put a link on the show notes to the one that I bought so that you can see it. I'm really excited. I may have that available in my private practice for parents to take home with them too and use it, depending on how it goes. So I'll let you know about that in future episodes. Now, my work with kids, I'm a registered play therapist, a child therapist, I really, and a parent educator, parent coach, I really have seen a lot of change with kids that deal with anxiety. And the thing that I've found to be the most effective is using EMDR. It really helps to desensitize those feelings and reprocess them. Now, in some situations, kids will also use medication, kind of like a combination therapy and medication, to really make the difference. Now, I don't prescribe medication, or am I like pro or con medication? It's not really my business. The medication isn't. That's usually a psychiatrist or the medical doctors that really get into that. But know that that's when it's really intense, that some people use medication in therapy. Now, the medication, it's important to know when the medication stops, then often the issue will still be there. That's why therapy is important, because it really gets to the root of the cause, and it can help make that big difference long term. But sometimes people use medication, and there's a variety of them out there to make the therapy more effective, but it's not always necessary. So if that's something that you're considering or you're wondering about, that would be something to talk to your pediatrician about, or your psychiatrist, or your therapist can provide you a referral for that, and really help you to be informed in that area. Also, I love to teach and I think I talked about this a minute ago, that self-soothing, but I love to teach clients how to do that therapeutic deep belly breaths. That makes a big, big difference. It can help people calm down. I think breathing is one of the biggest ways. Also, I've had great experiences with essential oils. Now, I was really kind of skeptical when I first heard of essential oils. It's been several years back now. I thought, I wonder if this is another attempt for somebody to sell me something. So I was really kind of skeptical, but I've used them, and now I use them with my clients, like through mindfulness and through calming and grounding. I use them a lot in therapy, as well as at home with my own family. So first I was exposed to the doTERRA brand, there's a blend called Serenity that is specifically a blend for anxiety. You can put it underneath the child's big toe, and that can really make a difference. Or you could put it in a diffuser. But it's important to know that everybody has different results. I've had some clients that I've recommended that to, and they say, that didn't make a big difference at all. And then some people come back and they say, wow, that made a world of difference. So it's not a guarantee, but it's something that I like. And has worked for me. But I don't necessarily buy doTERRA each time because it is a little bit more expensive than I like Eden Gardens. They're really good. They're pure essential oils, and they are just a fraction of the cost. Really, really good stuff. So, and you can buy it directly. I really love that. Not that you can't buy doTERRA directly. I'm not certain of all of the pieces, but I know they have different people that sell theirs. Eden Gardens, you purchase those online, and you may be able to purchase them in a store too. I'm not sure on the familiars. So it's EDENGARDEN. I'm not sure if it's S or if it's Gardens or Garden, but I really like their lavender and their peppermint, their bergamot. I like their lemon. I help after someone's had a especially tough session. I will pull out the essential oils to ground them and help bring them back to that feeling of calmness. It really works well for that. But also, I have purchased mini oils from doTERRA. When I say mini, I mean I've used the kind that helps with, I think it's called Elevate, helps lift moods. Vetiver is something that helps with anxiety. I got some of the non-scented lotion and put some essential oils in there and gave to one of my clients to keep in their backpack. And it had that vetiver in there so that she could rub the lotion on her hands and it would be calming. Of course, you probably couldn't take the oils to school in some schools, but you can certainly take a little bit of hand lotion sometimes. So that's important to check with your school to see. But rub it on your hands and it can have that grounding effect that helps calm down someone's alarm system in their brain. All right, so we are at the end of our episode. If you'd like to connect with me, I offer consultation and parent coaching support. So you can just email me at jackie@jackieflynnconsulting.com, or my private practice email is jackie@counselinginbrevard.com. So that's IN, like counselinginbrevard.com. And if you want the show notes to this episode, you can find those at parentingintherain.com. And be sure to check out future episodes. We have some really good ones coming up. If you're not yet an iTunes subscriber to this podcast, Parenting in the Rain, be sure to subscribe, rate, and give an honest review. And I just want to thank you for those of you guys that have sent me the emails. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. All right. Well, until next time. Oh, and join our Facebook group. It's such a great group of people. I love the community that we have in there. So you just search Facebook for Parenting in the Rain community. All right. Here we go. Until next time. Take care.